Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Bob Gums bringing you the Concerned Forum. How's everyone doing tonight? Well, I hope. Listen, before we get any further into the weeds, I hope that y'all will do me the honor of looking at those boxes there on YouTube and, check the box. Also, if you have any comments to make, I would really would be appreciated if you guys would tell me how you feel about what it is that I'm speaking about. You don't have to agree with me, but I want to know how people think. I want to understand your thought patterns. Okay. Now, let's take a look at what we got going on here. Well, we see that now we have in the United States, we have 8 Democrats in the United States Senate that basically sold out the American people. Okay. The Democrats, for the first time in a very long time, actually stood their ground and kicked ass. And for some reason, these 8 Democratic senators decided to sell out the Democratic Party and to sell out working Americans. Now, what do you think about that? Mm. Me, myself, I happen to think it's a goddamn shame. I wonder why. Why would they do that? We had the fascists on the run. Why would I don't know, why would you give up that momentum, quite frankly? I don't understand that. Because now you have a bunch of Americans that are gonna have to pay 2 and 3, and in some cases 4 times what they've been paying for health insurance. A lot of people are not going to be able to afford that, and consequently, they will die. And I believe that those deaths will be on the conscience of those 8 Democrats that sold out working Americans. It's not really, look, politics is not that complicated, okay? Either you are there to help the average person that voted for you, or you're not. Real simple. When you have a situation where you have millions of people, unfortunately, who need health care insurance, and you stab them in the back, they're going to die. It's just that simple. If you're not able to see a doctor on a regular basis, chances are you are going to get very sick and or they're going to die. This is what we have come to here in the United States of America. Now, I hear all these Republicans running around talking about, oh, well, we wanted to make sure there was no illegal immigrants and blah, blah, blah. Yo, screw that. Okay? That's not realistic. That's not true. The law already forbids undocumented, unregistered aliens from using these programs. So why is it that the Republican Party keeps hanging on this nonsense? And see that shows me right there that this is not my dad's Republican Party. And I keep saying this. I don't know if anyone's listening. But this Republican Party that we have now in 2025, this is not the Republican Party. This is a embryonic fascist slash Nazi party. Okay? And what they do, they feed these tropes to white working class voters saying, oh, well, if you support the Democrats and you support black folks and Latino folks, sitting on their ass taking government benefits. That's the bullshit. That is essentially, oh, and let's not forget the LGBT community. Let's not forget people, right, who have issues in terms of their own sexuality. And Republicans are saying, oh, they want to use women's bathrooms to rape your daughters, right? The trans community. So let's not forget that. And see, look, my working class white brothers and sisters, you have been played. It's just like LBJ, President Lyndon Baines Johnson used to say. You keep telling white working class people that, hey, you are better than any non-white person. Now, he said black person. LBJ was talking about black folks. But as we can see from today, it's not just about black folks, it's about any non-white person. And unfortunately, too many of our white brothers and sisters have fallen for this nonsense. See? It could be Asian, it could be even European, for God's sake. And they will tell you that, oh, well, if we support this Democrat, he's going to allow black and Latinos and to basically take our tax money and sit on their ass and get free services. And that's not the case. As you know, one thing, and I want to thank Donald Trump, MAGA, and the Republican Party for. Because I'm a leftist. I'm a proud leftist. I'm a proud woke person. I'm also a proud veteran. And I want to thank Donald Trump and his crew because they have shown the bullshit that market-based capitalism is all about. See? No intelligent person, or no, put it this way, no educated person would fall for this bullshit unless they happen to be, just like the people in Trump's cabinet, happen to be benefiting from this mountain of lies. And I think, the MAGA people, the, what do you call them, gropers and right wing folks, I think they're right to a point about one thing. When we say, or excuse me, when they say that Donald Trump was sent by God, I prefer to say that Donald Trump was sent by fate. Okay? And I think that they're right, but for the wrong reasons. Because I honestly believe that Donald Trump was sent to America to show Americans, listen, you have a democratic experiment that's been going on for 250 years. Now you have this guy Trump and his Republican Party. Now, what Donald Trump was able to do, he made the Republican Party into his own image. So now we have a clear choice. The American people have a clear choice. Either you support Donald Trump and his fascism, his racism, his anti Semitism, or you support democracy. It's real simple. It's not that hard to figure out. And see, this is what's going on now in America. So in many ways, the whole Trump thing from 2016 to the present, it's basically, how should I say? On the one hand, it's a disaster for democracy, not just only in the United States, but for the entire world. But on the other hand, what it does, it gives the American people and people from around the world, you have a choice. Both of these things, both of these ideas are clear and present. See? So 10 years down the road, you can't say, oh, well, I didn't know it was going to turn out to be like this. No, you can't say that. You have the Republicans, the MAGA, the GROYPERS, all these assholes over here. And on the other side, you have Democrats, you have uh, progressives, you have people who believe in the basic tenets of democracy. And you have a choice. You have a choice. It's just like my Latino brothers and sisters, they found out the hard way. Because somehow they felt that being part of MAGA, being part of the Republican Trump, that whole caravan of insanity, somehow they felt that if they show, and see, I also blame Latino leadership, at least most of them, because they went out there, they worked overtime to influence their people to vote for Donald Trump. And unfortunately, they actually fell for that bullshit. Yeah, that's what I call it. Okay? Um, because take a look at all these Latino people that are being hit over the head, being beaten into the sidewalk, and thrown in the back of vans. And I think one of the main women down there in Miami that was, oh, I can vote for Donald Trump. And what happens in February? She's out there. Trump betrayed us. He lied to us. No. Um, and like Bill Clinton used to say, I feel her pain. What's happening to her and her community, especially the Cuban and Venezuelan community, I feel for those folks. I truly do. I'm a black American. I've been putting up with the bullshit for the last over 400 years. So when I tell Latinos, I feel what you're going through. That's not something that I embellish on my part. You know, my grandfather was Dominican. Okay, my pop was raised most of his young life in San Domingo. Okay, my mother was born and raised in Virginia in the old Confederacy, and I'm born and raised in New York. So I hear what that lady is saying when she says that Trump lied to the Latino community, especially the Venezuelan and Cuban communities. Yeah, I get that. But, and I'm going to say something that some people might find offensive, but no, Trump did not betray you. Okay? You betrayed yourself. That's why your friends, your relatives, your business owners in the Latino community are being taken out in handcuffs and thrown in the back of vans and being shipped out of the country or being shipped to concentration camps. Because you, as a leadership person in the Latino community, you betrayed yourself. Seriously. Now, I blame you. I blame a lot of the BS that we've had here in America for the last 400 years because there's a certain thing in America that teaches all immigrants, not just white European immigrants, which especially over the last 10 years are few, okay, extremely few. But this whole idea that, well, whatever you see black folks doing, then you do the opposite. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of Latinos did. They actually believed in this convicted criminal, this convicted sexual abuser. They trusted him and they fell for the bullshit. And they said, oh, well, black people vote Democratic because Democrats give black people things so that they can sit on their ass and not work like regular working people. And unfortunately, a lot of, and I've known folks like this. I've known Africans, I've known Latinos, even within my own family. And they bought into that bullshit. And all they were doing, it's just like you see these clowns come on YouTube and these other social media apps and what have you that spout all this bullshit about conservatism and what have you. And people actually fell for that. People of color actually fell for that. Because a lot of people, it's a funny thing. If I had my way, if I could snap my fingers like that, and some, I don't know, fate, God, or whoever just said, Bobby Gums, you snap your fingers and you can make you can make people do what you want them to do. If that power came to me, you know what I would do? I would snap my fingers and I would say that, yeah, you have to understand, you have to learn American history. Because it's shocking to me. Hell, how many Americans don't know American history? You got native born Americans that have no idea who the hell their congressperson is, who their senator is, uh, when did the United States become a country? I mean, how in the hell? Now that's me, because I'm kind of a history buff. But I'm really concerned when I see that you have a huge amount of Americans that don't even know American history. And if you don't know American history, then you are liable to be sucked in by any lying asshole, just like like the one you have now in the White House. So they're told, well, if you hang out with the Democrats, you're like those no good lazy black folks who want something for nothing. And you would be shocked to know how many non-white people, non-white immigrants actually fall for that. And as a result of them falling for that, what happens? They wind up essentially voting against themselves. If you are a Cuban American, if you are a Venezuelan American, if you are a Colombian American, if you are a Puerto Rican American, and if you are a Mexican American, and you voted Republican, all you did was you voted against yourself. Okay? You voted against yourself. You have to understand that the hardcore of today's Republican Party are racist. They are fascists. If you were in the country in 2017, then you should have remembered when you saw all these white racists parading through Charlottesville, Virginia, yelling about the Jews shall not replace us. Do those words ring a bell? Do they spark a memory? Right? And then on top of that, the president of the United States at that time, well, let's see now, who was the president in 2017? Oh, let me think. I know I'm getting older and the memory is not what it used to be, but let me think. Who was the president? Ah, Donald Trump, right? It was Donald Trump that said that, hey, you had good people on both sides. Now, let's think about this. On the one side, you had progressives, you had Democrats, you had liberals, you had Democratic Socialists who said that, hey, all men and women are created equal. That's on the one side. On the other side, you had fascists, you had the New American Nazi Party, you had MAGA, you had GROYPERS who say that white people are superior, not just to black folks, but to any person of color. Now, when the president of the United States says that you had good people on both sides, so what he's saying, he is giving the same imprimatur to folks that say that all human beings are created equal, and he's given the same people that follow Hitler's diktat about people of color and Jews who are basically God's condemned evil people. And he's saying that both of these sides are equal, that both sides are okay in his mind. Now, I would look at any Latino person that called himself a Trump supporter, and I would ask him, why would you vote for someone that thinks that you are about that much above a garbage dump? I would look at any black American and ask them, why would you support a guy that says that you are maybe that much above a gorilla? See, there's a lot going here that we really need to investigate and look at, right? I think a lot of it involves self-hatred. I think a lot of it involves this idea that, oh, well, if I show, what's his name, that clown in California? Larry Ellis, right? People like that. And like that boy down there in Florida, Brian Daniels, who thinks he's going to become governor of Florida. Right. People like that. Oh, let's not forget that shoeshine boy in South Carolina, Tim Scott. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, how do people like that exist? Apparently, they never, I don't know, maybe they didn't go to school. Maybe they never opened the book about American history. But I think it says a lot when you support a party and a person that says that you're garbage. You know? Listen, Trump went to Puerto Rico after a huge, climatic, disastrous hurricane, killed a bunch of people, destroyed infrastructure, the whole bit. And what did he do? He didn't go down there and say, well, listen, I'm going to ask Congress to start doing, making legislation to help you guys because you guys are fellow Americans and this hurricane really screwed y'all. But Trump didn't say anything like that. Trump said that, oh, Puerto Rico, you're garbage. You're garbage. Now, I can assure you, okay, being a native New Yorker, born and raised, knowing the Trump family, knowing Donald Trump and his picadillos, really, let me not exaggerate. I think I was about, what, 14, 15? When I followed, started following this guy and the stuff that him and his old man did, uh, this guy, so many, in many occasions, basically said that non-white people are scum. Not just black folks now. Now we know what he thinks about black folks. All the time that Al Sharpton used to protest in front of Trump Towers and all this other good stuff, Trump basically made his feelings known about black Americans. But see, now we know it's not just black Americans. It also extends to brown people, to Jewish people, to Asian people. And I'm just trying to figure out, why would you support someone that thinks that you are a teeny bit above a freaking animal? I don't get that. I really don't. Now, that kind of coincides because you hear so much of this MAGA civil war, right? I don't understand. What civil war? MAGA hates non-white people. It's not hard to figure out. All you have to do is listen to what they say. And this whole thing, I mean, they made this whole big deal about Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Well, hey, look, it's wrong here in America for anyone of any political bent to be assassinated because we're the United States of America. We don't do that bullshit, right? We say that we fight you at the ballot box, which is cool. Okay, that's fine. That's the way it's supposed to be in the democracy. But to turn Charlie Kirk into some kind of freaking saint, no, that's pure bullshit. Charlie Kirk was a nasty, filthy, vicious person. Okay, he was also a failure. He tried to get into West Point, and they shot him down. I mean, we don't, that's what I have, the problem I have with mainstream media, because they don't really talk about that. The fact that this guy was rejected from West Point. Now, he seems to be a highly intelligent young white male, physically fit, and the whole bit. So, my question, also intellectually sharp. So, my question is, why in the hell would West Point turn down someone like that? Was it because of DEI? I don't think so. Okay. That's something I would really like to research, quite frankly. Why was this guy turned down from West Point? But regardless, he was turned down. I think that that's one of the main factors that turned him into a preacher of hate. Okay? Now, this is a guy that tells me, as a black American citizen, that my mother was not the intellectual equivalent of him or any other white male. Now, if that's his opinion, I mean, that's fine. I don't believe in slaughtering people for their opinions. No matter how whacked out those opinions, in my opinion, no matter how whacked out those opinions may happen to be. But all this bullshit about, putting the flag at half mast, and just like they do in some of these red states. Well, yeah, well, if you didn't like or you had something negative to say about Charlie Kirk, you can't teach in this state. What was it, Oklahoma and a couple of other places? What the hell was that in the United States of America, right? Now, to tell you quite frankly, when we had a lot of different protests going on, and back in the 60s and 70s, even the early 80s, I never participated in the protest where they tried to, where they burned the flag. Now, some people might ask why. They say, well, you're such a leftist, Bobby. Why wouldn't you involve yourself in a protest like that? I could never do that because I see that American flag, that's the same flag that black men carried during the Civil War, uh, carried in the Spanish American War when they supported Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders going up San Juan Hill. Not to mention World War One, where you had Private Johnson basically standing off, and there was another guy, Johnson and what's his name, Roberts. These two brothers held off like a whole German company in World War One, during World War One, when they had to fight under the French colors. Because America, what did that cat say? Black was not a color in the rainbow. This is what black men did fighting for this country. Now, I despise what the country did to them, but the fact that they felt that that flag was something worth dying for, at least the ideals, I could never bring myself to desecrate an American flag. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I those that did that type of thing, I'm not going to condemn them. But as far as me myself is concerned, no. Because every time I would think about putting a match to Old Glory, I keep thinking about those black men that felt that that flag was worth dying for. So I could never do that. But I'm curious because when I see Donald Trump giving these pardons to all these no good, stupid bastards that attacked our capital, that think it was cool to dump feces in the office of Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, and, all this other nonsense. That really disturbs me. That's why I can never look at what's that senator from Missouri? I was it Hawley? I could never really respect a guy like that. Number one, he never served under the colors, number one. Number two, he went giving high fives to the people that desecrated our nation's capital. And, I understand that nowadays he tries to present himself as a populist, but I just, I could never respect a guy like that. I spent my little time in the military, but I understand. what that flag means, what it stands for. And the idea that, what's his name, Holly, you see the video. First, he's walking by these animals who want to destroy the Capitol, and then the next minute, he's hauling ass. He's running because he's afraid that those same animals are going to rip his ass apart. And it's funny because so many of those officers, I mean, I know a couple who died, and the rest of them, they got beat up. A lot of them were so screwed up in the head that they had to resign from the Capitol Police contingent. And I'm going to tell you, you know why a lot of those guys decided to resign? Listen, when you're going up against the enemy and you're terrified and you're scared, but you're going to do your duty anyway because of the fact, you're an American and you have a duty to protect, defend, etc. And you can live with that. You can die with that. But I think what hurt a lot of those police officers was the fact that they were being torn apart, beaten by fellow Americans, by American citizens. And I just think that that is, especially, the head cases, I think that that is what really screwed them up. See, because they said, damn, I'm up here getting my ass kicked by Americans. I don't think a lot of people, I don't think they really understand that. Okay? It's just like you have this vice president, what's his name, Van. Sometimes I can't believe that this guy is a freaking Marine or was a freaking Marine. I just I can't believe that, right? And I think that he is one sad son of a bitch, quite frankly. This guy, he has presented himself as somebody that he's willing to sell his own wife and children out because the political faction that he has tied his political star to don't like brown people. And I have yet to hear Vance condemn MAGA, condemn GROYPERS, condemn the Republican Party for being racist. My attitude is, hey man, you married a woman, apparently at one point in your life you really loved her. You had children by her, which is a good thing. It should be a happy thing. But now you seem to hesitate standing behind her. As a matter of fact, you seem like you're trying to tear the woman down. What is this bullshit? Oh, well, yeah, she's Hindu, but I wish she would become Christian. Who in the hell do you think you are? I mean, that's the same thing I would say to MAGA, the Republicans, the GROYPERS, or whatever, right? But you, as Vice President of the United States and a former Marine, I would figure that you had balls to stand up and tell these bastards, hey, how dare you insult my wife? Because what you're saying is that in your mind, somehow Hindus are somehow not as equal as white Protestant Christians. Now, quite frankly, I detest people getting into the bedroom issues of their political opponents. Okay, I am not comfortable talking about Vance and the issues of race and religion dealing with his wife. As a matter of fact, I find it rather disgusting. But as we now have this situation where you have dark people being beaten in the streets and thrown in the back of vans, where you have a situation where you have Republicans and MAGA people and GROYPERS attacking people for their religion, and just like in that, what's the name, Ohio, then I can't pronounce his name, I'm not going to try, because I'm not going to disrespect his name. But you have an Indian gentleman, Indian American gentleman in Ohio that wants to be governor. Now, quite frankly, I think that he sucks as a candidate. Okay? But what I resent is the fact that he is being attacked because of his religion, because of the fact that he's Hindu. So I can accept him being a Hindu. Hey, that's his business. But what I can't accept, I cannot accept the whole bigotry, racism, xenophobia. No, I can't accept that. I can't go with that. And see, the Republican Party and MAGA and GROYPERS, just a bunch of goddamn hypocrites, quite frankly. Because it's written right there in the Constitution. There will be no religious qualifications for anyone wanting to run for public office. But see, since the Republican Party is now a part of MAGA and the GROYPERS, and these people are xenophobes, and they believe that you have to have the right color and the right religion to run for a public office here in the United States of America. Well, here you have it. Now, I made friends with Indian Americans. I think they're wonderful people. But I have problems with Indian Americans that think that somehow the further they get away from black folks, that somehow that redeems their Indianness, okay, if I can use that phrase, and that somehow they will make themselves acceptable to the Republican Party, to MAGA, to GROYPERS, to the American Nazi Party. No, that's not going to happen. You hear Dinesh D'Souza? That's not going to happen. You've been played for the last 15 years. You've been made a chump out of, right? And you need to understand that. Because the Republican Party, MAGA, GROYPERS, whatever you want, was it GROYPERS or GROPERS or, I don't know, rapists? I mean, whatever you want to call these people, okay? They honestly believe that America should be for white Protestant males, which, by the way, might explain why these guys who are MAGA, GROYPERS, what have you, uh, they have a hard time because they're talking about the declining birth rate among white folks. I would interject that perhaps the reason that they feel that way is because most white women find them to be disgusting, quite frankly, and they don't want to share a bed with them. Now, is that the Jewish person's fault? Is that the Latino person's fault? Is that the black person's fault? No, I don't think so. Okay? Because, and I'm over 65, so I can tell you, women are funny. If they think that you are a true asshole, I don't care what color the woman might happen to be, if they think that you are a true asshole, chances are they're not going to sleep with you. And if they're not going to sleep with you, then you don't have to worry about this thing about, bringing in white babies. It's just that simple. And you folks in MAGA and GROYPERS and the Republican Party, you got a lot of internal problems. And what you want to do, you want to use legislation to basically force white women to sleep with you and have your babies. Believe me, okay? Believe me. And I guess I'm passing into that stage of being I can be respectively called an old geezer. Trust me, okay? If you want to sleep with women, right? I don't care what color they are, you cannot present yourself as a freaking asshole. Women don't like that. Now, the thing about what I do here on the Concerned Forum, I don't use necessarily polite language. In certain respects, I'm still back in the late 60s, early 70s. And what we used to say back then, tell it like it is. And that's what I do. Now, some folks might have a problem with that. But I believe it's more important to basically straight off the shoulder and tell people exactly what I think. Now, you be the judge of whether what I'm saying makes sense. If you're, if you don't have a problem with it, or if you do have a problem with it. But I'm going to call it like I said. That that's something that's a part of me. I've always been like that, and because I think that too much time has been wasted on a lot of the political, what is it, tete-a-tete. You know, you need to tell people, hey man, you suck. Trade up, right? That does not have anything to do with degrading the language, um, or stripping away any kind of intellectual consistency. It's just telling people like it is. And from what we have seen so far, that's the problem with MAGA, GROYPERS, and fortunately, this new Republican Party. What's his name? Nick Fuentes, that little prick. Uh, who the hell was he? And what has he done? What has he ever done in terms of serving his country? I don't know. I have no idea. Well, I take that back. Yeah, I do have an idea. And none of it shows that this guy has ever done a goddamn thing in terms of serving America. But yet he's willing to go out there on the public stage and talk about black folks. Right? Now, what black folks are you talking about? Are you talking about the black folks that served in the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, the Civil War, Spanish American War, World War One, World War Two, Korea, Vietnam? What the hell have you done, Nick? What the hell have you done for this country? You talk about being America first. Sounds nice, but what does that really mean? To me, the way that you talk about America first, that means that you hate Jews. I don't hate Jews. Obviously, in Central Europe in the 1930s, Jews got a damn raw deal. But because I recognize how those people were butchered and screwed over, that does not mean that I have to condone what's going on in Gaza today. And that does not make me anti Semitic. It does all the things that I've heard you talking about Jewish people, Jewish Americans. Yeah, I think that does make you anti Semitic. And what we have to do in America, people, I know it sounds kind of flaky, but we have to come together. It's just that simple. If the people of America, the people of the United States, don't come together, I would say within 5 to 10 years, there will really be no United States of America. This whole hate thing, you hate Canada, you hate Greenland, you hate Venezuela, you hate Colombia, you hate Nigeria, you hate South Africa. That is not going to make the United States of America a strong, prosperous nation. I think what it will do, it will make America a country that nobody wants to be bothered with, quite frankly. And yeah, that can happen. Seriously. And I think that it's time for the American people to wake up and to realize, especially our white working class brothers and sisters. Now, we all didn't come over here to America in the same way, but we're here now, okay? We basically stole the lands from the indigenous people and we took it over. When I say we, I'm talking about the American establishment of the 19th going into the early 20th centuries. Now, that's not me with some kind of crazy left wing ramble. That's history. That is history. Oh, by the way, that's another thing. We need to stop folks like in Florida and Oklahoma and Mississippi, places like that. We need to, these people that say, well, we don't want to teach our kids history because it's divisive. No, what is divisive is when you try to hide facts from people going to school. That is what is divisive. And think about this. Our kids are growing up in a world where America is like, what, less than 4% of the planet's population. You're going to have to deal with Asians, Africans, Latin Americans, whether you like it or not. And this idea of white supremacy, of white Christian nationalism, it's not going to work. It just ain't, right? Here in America, you have all kinds of people. And that is supposed to be the glory of America. The fact that, what is it, e pluribus unum, out of the many, one? And this garbage, like that crazy lady that's head of, what the hell is it, HEW or HUD or Homeland Security? The chick that likes to blow away little puppy dogs, right? I don't understand what benefit that her idea of national crime control, where you go through America's cities and you beat up and arrest all the black and brown people, I don't think that that's helpful. I really don't. I don't see where that helps America. I don't see where that helps us gain a better quality of life. And I would say to my working class white brothers and sisters, it's time. It's time to turn the page on this nonsense. If America is going to be America and actually provide quality of life for all of its people, we have to stop this culture war nonsense. You might not like that trans person. You might not like that gay person. You might not like that black or Latino person or that Indian person. But the point is that somehow, some way, we have to work together. Otherwise, this democracy, this democratic experiment that started in 1776, it's going to come to an end. It's just that simple. What did Lincoln say? A house divided by itself cannot stand. And the road that Republicans and MAGA and GROYPER and these other idiots that they're trying to take our country down, it's not gonna. It's not gonna work. A lot of people in the so-called heartland, they fell for Trump and his siren song of racial supremacy, xenophobia, etc. And look where the hell that's gotten us. We don't have to love each other. We don't have to like each other. But we have to work together. Otherwise, this thing, it's not going to work. It's just that simple. It's not going to work. I mean, do you enjoy Donald Trump and his madness and chaos? Plus the fact that it's going to come out that, Trump is well, it's already come out that he's a sexual molester. Okay. It's going to come out also that he's a pedophile. And because of the fact that he tried so hard to cover that up, oh, well, hey, that's one of the reasons why it seems that we have an administration in total shambles. Knocking down the East Wing and tells you, well, this was being done by private donors. Yeah, well, maybe it is, but do you ever stop to think what's at the bottom of that East Wing that he's knocking down? Believe me, there's going to be whole security network right below that ballroom that he's trying to create. There has to be. Because that's the president. That's the president. If something happens, he has to go down to the basement. That whole nonsense that he has destroyed and is recreating in his own image. Yeah, federal people, federal funds are going to have their hands in that. And you, the American people, are going to pay for it. Trust me, you are going to pay for it. And ask yourself a question. They did that when Hillary was running, Ask yourself a question. When that phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, do you want Donald Trump to be the one answering that phone? Think about it seriously. Okay? Kamala Harris is done, unfortunately. She was right about everything, but she didn't win the election. But you ask yourself, is Donald Trump the person that you want to decide whether or not to take America into a thermonuclear war? I wish the media, mainstream media, would talk about this more often. But this is real. This is what you have to ask yourself. And do you think that it makes more sense to you, for you, to worry about, what is it? I think they're like 1% of the American population, trans people. Do you think that it's more important to worry about drag queens and trans people than to worry about who's going to have their finger on the button when we're talking about issues of thermonuclear war? Trump or one of his MAGA people or trans people? Excuse me, Trump or one of his MAGA people or GROYPER people? Yo, it's time to get, this whole thing about conservatism. And again, because I know I'm going to different, different subjects here, but I think that they're all knitted together. What the hell is a Latino conservative or a black conservative? Remember, conservative means that you want things to stay the same, right? If you are a Latino person, does that mean do you want things to stay the same? You don't want any change in how immigrants are treated? If you are a black person, do you think that we would have been better off back in the 30s and 40s? Because look it up. Look what conservative means. I want to finish off this video by saying that the whole idea of conservative, I think for the 21st century and beyond, I think it's done. I think it's dead. And quite frankly, I think that we as human beings, our duty is to go forward. Our duty is to seek progress, not to stay behind. I think that we have to look at the Constitution. We have to look at what was, what's good, what's practical, and move forward from there. Hell, even Thomas Jefferson told you that. So I think that people, we need to think about that. We need to think about how are we all going to live in this country at peace with each other. I mean, I'm going to respect your culture. You need to respect mine. We need to respect our differences without killing each other, quite frankly. And I will finish off by saying that Donald Trump is the best and the worst thing that has happened to the United States. I think he's the best thing because sometimes you can't tell people many times what they need to know and what they need to hear. They have to see it for themselves. They have to feel it for themselves. That's why I say the best advertisement for, and I'm showing my New Yorker this here, the best advertisement for Zohar Mandami is Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, he's the epitome of market capitalism, unrestricted capitalism, and it's good that all the American people, of whatever color or ethnic background, they all have a chance to see that. So the whole business about what happens in 26 and 28, the choice is yours, it's in your hands. You have seen the worst. Trump's first term wasn't enough for many of you people that voted Republican again. But now you have seen it. You have seen the worst. So if you choose to go right wing, conservative, MAGA, GROYPER, then the fault is on your shoulders. And people need to think about that. Listen, I appreciate you giving me the time to hear out what I have to say. I look forward to your opinions. And in the meantime, until our next show, take care of yourselves. Research and read. And thank you for your time. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and peace. Bob Gomes of the Concerned Forum, signing off. Take care.